Hello, dear listeners. You're listening to the GamePitch Podcast, a weekly chat between two pals that is all about video games and the game industry.
Every week, we'll bring you the latest gaming news, hand out industry red cards, and pitch an all-new game idea.
The GamePitch Podcast drops Monday mornings on the Project Nerd Podcast Network.
It's the perfect antidote to your end-of-the-weekend blues.
I'm JD.
And I'm Eli. Let's get to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the GamePitch Podcast. I am your host, JD, here with my excellent co-host, Eli. As always, Eli, you want to say hi to everyone?
Well, hello, listeners, and hello to you. J to the, hey, bro, you want to rip a gnar? You want to go down to the bay? You want to grind some rails? Hey, man, it'll be totally Richter, me, you, rails, both. Let's go.
Oh, that was amazing. That was the best one yet. And did you rehearse that? Did you practice that?
Look, bro. I'm so glad that you're not one of those like Tony Hawk Pro haters. I'm glad that you're into it. I'm hyped for the show. Let's go.
Oh, let's get into it. We have a packed show this week. We're going to talk about Ghost of Tsushima and the amazing gameplay that they showed over on the PlayStation Twitch account. We're going to talk about triangles and everything that Unreal Engine and Epic Games talked about this week. And we have a pretty freshly baked game pitch to give to everyone. First off, what are you playing this week, Eli?
I didn't play as much this week because I'm still stuck on that same boss in the messenger. I will say that I've been watching some video, some Will Wright master classes, and also some Udemy classes that you inspired me to get. So I've been watching some stuff on the game dev.
Yeah, that's kind of been me too. It was less play, more make this week. Doing a lot of Udemy courses, like you said, and just kind of getting my hands dirty a little bit, both in Unity and in light of the Unreal Engine announcements, which we'll talk about later. But I've been dipping into Unreal a little bit too, just kind of feeling them both out. And yeah, so not a lot of gaming this week. You know, as always, I play a little bit of Animal Crossing, I feel like every single day. But yeah, no, not a ton going on.
I did download Master Chief Collection again. And
good.
It took 40 years, but
that's good.
I'll be able to play it at some point. It'll be nice when it's fully downloaded.
Oh, it's still actively downloading.
Yeah, that's why my Xbox was on before we were recording, and I was just hearing the hum of the fan. Because, I don't have an Xbox One X. I just have the regular one. So it's just like fan, downloading, dying.
It's basically, just the download alone throttles it, let alone launching the game. Like, once you try to fire that bad boy up, it is going to be a mess.
It's over. It's all the way done. So to start the show, these last few weeks, we've kind of had some fun games that I've challenged you with. So this week I have a new game for you.
Okay.
Now, last week there was Inside Xbox. They revealed some games. People on the internet were upset, but I want to highlight some of these games because I still thought they were good. I'm going to give you 3 selections here. And it's basically 2 truths and a lie, if you're not familiar with 2 truths and a lie. One of these games is made up, and 2 of these games appeared in Inside Xbox this last week that we talked about on the last pod. Your first pairing, JD. Chorus, Song of Sirens, and Call of the Sea.
Let's say Song of Sirens, not real.
You are correct, sir.
Beautiful.
Your next pairing of 3. Avail, Scarlet Nexus, and Scorn.
Oh, God. I'm going to say Avail.
Oh my gosh, you're good at this.
Oh, yes. I am an expert. That's why people come to this podcast, Eli, is for my expert commentary and opinions and guessing.
Great, perfect. All right, last pairing.
Okay.
Second Extinction, The Descent, and The Medium.
Ooh. I'm going to say The Medium.
I'm sorry, that one's real.
Oh.
The Descent was fake. It's The Ascent, not The Descent.
Oh, you got me. That's probably where it got mixed up in my head. Oh, that was good. That was a good one. Those were good.
You went 2 for 3. You went 2 for 3. I think you passed. You have a passing grade.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
On the Inside Xbox game, one and only time we'll ever do that.
And that's it. Thank you for listening to that segment. We'll never do that again. All right. But we do have something else we want to talk about, which I have a feeling is going to become a reoccurring bit in here. So if you don't use Twitter, if you don't really follow, we talked about on the show before, Gary Whitta, one of the writers for Rogue One, he hosts a talk show in Animal Crossing called Animal Talking. He gets all sorts of amazing guests to come on. He had Elijah Wood, he had Danny Trejo, T-Pain. It's just a lot of fun. For whatever reason, I'm not 100% sure where, and I don't know if you know, and if you do, you can inform me and our audience. He has an incredible beef with Jeff Keighley. Jeff Keighley, of course, from E3 Coliseum, renowned gaming journalist, interviewer, all around, from the perception of the internet, great guy. But for some reason, there is a massive rift between the two of these guys, and I don't know why. Do you have any ideas?
I actually feel like it's all Gary with the scorn. It's Jeff is just like, wait, what the heck? Why does this guy hate me? So yeah, there's like actually now weeks of material of just Gary coming for Jeff Keighley in the comments and Jeff being surprised, but then also like retorting back and almost winning. I would say if
Every
we
time.
were, yeah, if like we were to like if this is a boxing match and we were scoring the rounds, it's like almost every time Jeff gets the better of him.
Yeah.
So I do want to go back to some of those examples, but I was actually watching Animal Talking yesterday morning because Tim Schafer's on it. Double Fine's one of my favorite developers, so I just wanted to see what Tim would say. I like listening to Tim. And there was a random comment that said, "Hey, when will Jeff Keighley be on the show?" And immediately, like, Gary stopped talking to Tim and was just like, "When hell freezes over." And then, like, Tim was like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening?" Because he's clearly friends with Jeff Keighley. And then Tim asked, like, "When did this happen?" And then he just like, you could hear him squinting in his voice, and he was just like, "He knows what he did." Like,
Oh my God.
if you want to find out, ask him. And I was like, "Oh my God, that's incredible." So it's, there's been like things where like Gary posted his weight loss.
Oh,
He's
that's
like,
my favorite.
Yeah, he posted the weight loss, and then like Jeff Keighley was like trying, I think, to mend the fence and being genuine, being like, "Congrats, clap." And then he's like, "Screw you, Greg." And the Greg thing comes from some guy in an article accidentally called Jeff Keighley Greg. So now Gary Wood has been calling Jeff Keighley Greg all week. And then there was another thing where he was like, "Oh, when I left PC Gamer," and then like Jeff like highlighted a thing that was like,
"You got laid off."
"You got laid off, not that you left."
Left in quotation marks, like, "Oh yeah, when you left."
And then it's like was laid off, and then he's just like, "F you, Greg." Like, it's like this incredible thing. So I just wanted to bring it up on the show because it's spicy, it's fun,
It's so good.
maybe as the weeks go on, maybe next week's game will be us trying to make up scenarios in which the beef went off. So maybe that'll be our homework. Next week, each of us will try to figure out the inciting incident of the beef.
I'm going to go down this weird rabbit hole of research on both of these two to figure out where this cross could have happened. Like, mine is going to be so thoroughly searched that it's going to be scary and less of a game and more of me just internet sleuthing to a fault. I'm into this.
Okay, cool. And then mine just going to be made up on the spot, like it's an improv show. So great. Now that we've established that, let's move into our fastballs. Every week we pick not 8 stories. We pick 11 stories that are going to make it into the show.
8+3.
8+3. Because there are 11 players on the pitch, and we have drafted 11 stories. The stories that we did not pick go to the story graveyard. You can find that segment on YouTube. It's our extra time segment. But JD, let's get into the picks.
Yeah, so first things first, I drafted to start us off with a next-gen rumor. So there's some stuff circulating around about the Xbox Series X being cheaper than we may all anticipate. And I think kind of in my head, I think in your head, right, a lot of people are thinking these consoles are probably going to launch somewhere around $500. I certainly feel like that's the case as well. And so this article sort of refutes that a bit and says Microsoft is in a position financially where they could, in theory, subsidize that console, launch it at $399, and eat $100 on every single unit in the anticipation of making it up over the long run in terms of selling software. I assume, selling Game Pass subscriptions, right? So the idea is they could eat that up front to move more hardware, which would then in turn get people into the ecosystem. That's not far-fetched, right? If you think about not necessarily gaming, but if you think about like the way Apple sells their products, they certainly sell an iPhone, they sell an iPad. The idea is to get you locked into their software ecosystem. So then as you buy apps or buy like iCloud storage or whatever, you're locked into that framework of hardware, and it becomes less about the box and more about everything that happens behind the scenes. Makes a lot of sense. The other half of it that I really like is that it's sort of this Cold War right now with Sony and Microsoft not announcing anything. And it sounds like Microsoft may be waiting for Sony to kind of flinch first so that they can then swoop in and undercut. That I like a lot. What are your thoughts on that?
I can, in everything that you were saying there, just really enforce this belief in me. If you don't have the games and the iconic publishers, your Naughty Dogs, your Sucker Punches, your Insomniacs, if you don't have the studios and the IP, I just can see a billboard on the side of a building, like one of those ones that like stretches down an entire like
those
office.
Massive E3 ones. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, something like that. I can see it just saying like more power, lower price. If Sony does come out at 5 and Microsoft comes out at 4, That would be insane. And I think that that's the
Yeah,
only way that they can get, not necessarily win the generation, because I don't know if they can catch up like that, but
right.
get the head start that they need to be competitive the rest of this next 7-year cycle.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to take some very aggressive moves, not only on the hardware front, but also on the software front. And I
Hmm.
wonder, we've seen so much acquisition of new studios into Xbox Game Studios, and we've seen so many moves in the last gen that I don't know have necessarily like come to fruition quite yet.
Hmm.
And I feel like a lot of that was sort of foundation building for what we're going to see on the Xbox Series X in terms of games and Game Pass and first party stuff. So it's pretty interesting. It's going to be something to look out for, I think.
I like a scrappier, Microsoft making deals,
Yeah.
maybe cutting corners, maybe folding some things like Paper Mario, the
Oh,
Origami King. Oh, the segues, baby, they're back. We're riding them
God.
off mountains just like the founder. Oh no.
So talk to me about this new Paper Mario, because I know you have thoughts.
Yeah, man. So the internet very happy to get a surprise drop like this. Bravo, Nintendo. Especially, I don't think they were trying to steal Ghost of Tsushima's like thunder, but they definitely did in a lot of people in a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
corners of the internet. So there was a new trailer. The game's being surprise launched in July, coming out very soon. I believe it's July 17th, if I'm not incorrect.
Sounds right.
So in the right area around there. I have been doing so much internet digging trying to figure out if there are partners in this game, and that's the one thing that I actually care about. So yes, new Paper Mario, that's fine. Color Splash, cool, whatever. Super Paper Mario, great game. Not a Paper Mario game. Like I'm just so frustrated, JG, and I know that you know this, but audience, I need you to know this too. That I want a real RPG Mario game again. It's what I want, and they keep making them more action platformers with RPG elements and puzzles, and it's not the focus. It's Final Fantasy isn't the focus, which makes me mad. So, JD, you like it, don't you? Do you like it?
I like the things I've seen, with the exception of you sent me a video of the combat system with the comment baby combat for baby game. It does not look very difficult in terms of the combat, which is disappointing. The game itself is beautiful. And I know you're not arguing that, and I don't think many people could. It looks gorgeous. The
Oh yeah.
style is amazing. But that combat video you sent me really does look boring. It does not look fun. And so,
It looks like it's more of a puzzle battle, I would say, to me.
yeah,
Like that's what it looked like. And then also, I don't know if you have seen Hamilton on stage, they kind of have this circular stage. So I was just like,
yes.
one of the developers was like, watched Hamilton and was like, oh man, circular stage. And he would just started making like intelligent systems got to see Hamilton. And then that's why I'm like so sad right now. So Lynn's usually my hero, and now he's the villain in my story. So Lynn, I'm upset, and so the internet's kind of divided because, and this is me being a crappy person. People are like, "Yay, partners are back," and I'm like, "Are they?" Like on every Twitter post I've seen, I was like, "Where's the proof?" I've done this multiple times to multiple people, just like, "Is there partner proof?" And like, I've seen other videos and screenshots, but the first thing that makes me think, no, there are not partners, because they say that you'll have allies, unlikely allies, and they also say travel companions. So yeah,
Okay.
you might be walking around
Sure.
the world with that Babam, with a Magic Koopa, or with that little Toad Explorer who looks scared. You might be walking around the world with them, helping. It might be their chapter story that you're doing. I don't think they're in battle in any way, shape, or form, because if you look at the health and the way it progresses throughout the screenshots, there's not a second
Right.
health bar for someone else. And it
Yeah.
doesn't appear like they'll have attacks. I'm just mad about not having partners for real. And especially if it's like all right, guys, we brought back people who are companions, but they're not really companions in battle. I don't know. So like, I don't know for sure yet what,
Yeah.
heads or tails is of this. The internet research that I've done, and I've even like looked at Japanese videos, Japanese screenshots. I'm all in it, JD. Like all the way in it.
I know everything you've sent me has been in Japanese, so thankfully it's easy to like figure out where to hit play to watch some of these videos. I know that you are deep down the rabbit hole on this, and thankfully you won't have to wait long. Like you mentioned, it's coming out in July, so we'll see how it does then. If we kind of rewind back to present day, let's talk a little bit more about Nintendo and the 15 most downloaded Switch games in April. Not shocking, Animal Crossing, far and away the absolute number one. What is extremely shocking to me is the rest of the list. So I'm not sure if this list was doctored, how much money that Ubisoft maybe spent on this list. Coming in at number 2 was Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Coming in at number 3, I don't know how, was Just Dance 2020. What? Like, and then like so many other weird, like, Uno and Pocket Mini Golf made the list. Monopoly for the Nintendo Switch made this list of top 15, which kind of is a little weird. It's a little maybe worrisome when you think about it too from a good software portfolio on the Switch. Like, how in
Hmm.
the hell are these games making a top 15? Also, another Ubisoft on the list, Rayman Legends Definitive Edition, rounded out towards the bottom. So like, help me understand how did this happen?
Okay, so these are eShop downloads, not physical sales, and definitely
Right.
in Europe specifically. So I think because Europe is Ubisoft's home territory, maybe they have a mastery of the marketing in a way there in their native land that we just don't understand. Like maybe the subways, the tubes, all of that stuff. Maybe they just know how to market there because there is a ton of Ubisoft stuff there. There is also Crash Bandicoot and Spyro on there. So I guess maybe I don't know if the Switch is less of a adult platform in Europe, and this is maybe something that we're not aware of, because there are a lot of things that are family friendly, kid centric, and like the things that you would like. Even Unravel 2 is on here, and Unravel 2 shouldn't be on the top 15 of anything anywhere.
Agreed. Yeah.
Like,
Like, it makes no sense.
yeah, Uno, yeah, I guess it's just a different. Like in Europe, you know how you can drink earlier, like the drinking age. It's like the leaving baby games behind age is different. It's like you hit like 16, and you're like, well, now I'm gonna get a PC and play Valorant for 20 years. Like it's just like,
Maybe that's it. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. This list feels so odd for a main system top sales list. And you're right. It is European sales. It's digital only. Certainly there's, maybe something going on there. I don't know. Yeah, it's odd. It's very weird.
yeah, maybe Ubisoft buys all the ad space on the digital storefront for Nintendo in Europe, and they just fill it with their stuff.
That's possible. I mean, it's hard to say for sure. I think you might be onto something in terms of Ubisoft has such a massive presence in Europe in terms of development, and maybe they do have a much better understanding of the market than we give credit for. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Something I'm not sure of as well, sir, is Cisco tweeted out about him being a guest on the Wonderful Wonder 101 remastered soundtrack. A while
Incredible.
ago they said that there'd be a remastered soundtrack as one of the stretch goals on this campaign, and they said
Right.
it would have special guests, and it appears as Cisco might be one of them. They sent him an early copy of the game, and I don't know what the song will be, if he'll actually be singing in it, or if it'll just be like a wonderful thong to thong thong thong. But I know there's nothing more that I want than for Cisco's music to be in the Wonderful 101.
The tweet he sent out is also amazing, right? So he's thanking him for the digital copy and then goes on to say, I hope that the DLC plan works out with me included. And then he has a little dragon emoji and the little glasses emoji. It's just the whole thing is so weird.
It's what you want.
He loves the game though, which I mean, that in itself is cool that he was this backer from very early on, right? It's so fascinating to me of all titles too. Like, how did he get so connected to this one? It doesn't make sense.
Could you imagine if he backed to the maximum tier? Or like he's over backing and he's dropping like 20 grand of that extra millions was his. He's just like, 20 grand, Wonderful 101, let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, all right, guys, here's our new stretch goal. And he instantly finances the whole thing. And like nobody else is getting the opportunity to back it. Ah.
Speaking of things that need to be backed, our next story is about some cool indie games.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Indie Exchange has announced a thing called Guerrilla Collective. So it's going to be a 3-day event all about indies. It's happening in the beginning of June 6th through 8th. And it's going to be part of that IGN Summer of Gaming showcase that we've talked about the past couple of episodes. And so it's going to be hosted by the Kinda Funny co-founder, Greg Miller. And they have a lot of really, really awesome people on board, right? So 11-Bit Studios, Fellow Travelers going to be there, Paradox, Whitehorn Games, just a lot of people that have made a ton of really interesting indies are going to be a part of this. And I don't even think we've seen the full list yet. I think they've put out a list of indies so far, and I have a feeling there's going to be even more that jumps in. But they're going to do sort of a reveal, and they're going to be doing new announcements, and they've said in quote, for every platform. So we should see some indie games across everything. And then on the last day, June 8th, they're going to do a full day of just gameplay demos and dev interviews. So I think this sounds awesome. It sounds really great to have this really indie focused showcase. So I'm really excited to tune in and try to catch as much of this as I can.
Yeah, it's super soon. It's happening there in June, and I think we're definitely going to cover this on the show, right? I mean, how can we not?
Oh, absolutely. In depth. We will be talking about what's shown and what's coming to what, and just giving our opinion on all these different things that they're going to be talking about. I'm stoked for it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it too. And something that everyone else is excited for is the next stuff coming from Bethesda. Now, JD, I actually drafted this story, not to talk about the story in any way, shape, or form. You can, if you want to, you can, sir. What I drafted this story for is to continue my evil and continue casting a hex on Bethesda Studio, because my favorite studio, BioWare, who I always viewed as like the Sharks to the Jets to Bethesda, has fallen from grace with Anthem. And I like Anthem. I'm sorry, people. I do. It's fun to play, even though there's nothing there. I know there's no meat on the bone, but I'm still sucking on that bone. Either way, I'm here to cast an evil hex on Elder Scrolls and Starfield never coming out ever, or being super years away. So, yeah, Boyle and Bumble, but Bethesda's in trouble. Blah! So that's really all I had for you.
So let's actually talk about the story real quick. Someone tweeted and was basically like, we need some information on Elder Scrolls. Like, come on, when are we going to see it? And then Pete Hines, who is in charge basically of Bethesda, tweeted out that we're not going to see anything about Elder Scrolls until after Starfield. And then went on to say, which you know basically nothing about Starfield, right? So he basically said, I'm setting the wrong expectation here if you guys think this is coming anytime soon, which is true, right? We last saw literally nothing but just like a weird title screen for Starfield in June of 2018. It is the absolute last time we've seen anything about that game. And so for him to say, we're not going to see Elder Scrolls 6 until after you guys see Starfield, which we've seen nothing of that game, we are years away from seeing anything about Elder Scrolls 6, and we're probably a couple of years away from Starfield too.
JD, how are they keeping the lights on? That's my question. What are they selling?
Fallout 76 microtransactions, baby. We're into it.
Okay, that's it. Because I mean, of course, id's with them as well. They're in the same boat. So Doom probably. So is Doom fueling years and years of Starfield and Elder Scrolls at this point? Is that happening?
They're selling something, right?
Okay,
like, or they have some sort of a war chest that they've just been collecting. I don't know.
Is it? Oh, maybe it's Fallout Shelter. Do you think that like
the microtransactions on that mobile game are just pumping money into the Starfield trailer development team? Because all we've seen is the one trailer that was just the logo, basically.
Speaking of logos, so Sony did something this week that really, I was upset with this, but there are a lot of people on the internet that are really excited about it. If you haven't seen it, essentially what it is it's a new branding for PlayStation Studios, and that's the name of it. It's just the PlayStation symbol, and then it says the word studios underneath it. This is really the new rallying call for all the studios that they own, the many studios that they have in their employ. This symbol is going to appear beforehand so that you know it's quality and that Sony stands behind it. The thing that was the most troubling to me were the characters that were actually included in the logos. So first, JD, what is your opinion of this new intro? That's what I want to ask you, buddy.
Well, first of all, it is just a reskinned version of Marvel's intro for all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Where you have the Marvel logo sort of floating around, and then on the letters, they have like the printing of the characters from their own individual or like Avengers movies. It is that. I mean, you can't argue it. That is 100% what this logo is based off of. And anyone arguing to the contrary is talking out of their ass. Like, there's no way about it. It is that logo. And also, where is Knack?
I didn't think you're like, I'm going to be serious about this because Knack should not be there. But okay, they included Sackboy, they include Aloy, they include Kratos. All of these make sense. They include Nathan Drake, and they include Last of Us. So only 5 people shown.
Which is weird.
Which is super weird because they own a lot of other IP. So the ones that, Clank appears as well.
Yes.
Clank appears as well. I would have liked to see Jack and Daxter. I would have. Yeah. I don't know why they weren't included. Also, it's weird that one studio got 2. So like it was almost like Sony saying Naughty Dog is more important. And then the Sucker Punch, they got 0. They didn't have, any infamous characters. No one from Ghost of Tsushima. Like that. Right. That seemed like Sony going to Sucker Punch's lawn and just taking down their pants and like getting swifty. Like they crapped all over the floor. They're like, hey, Sucker Punch, screw you. We out. Also, no Gran Turismo, no MLB. Like the MLB series has like the San Diego Sony studio has been and maybe they didn't have the rights to include a baseball player in it, and that's probably why Spider-Man wasn't there, because you would think, since Sony has the movie rights to Spider-Man and they made the game, that they would
They could
include
do it. Yeah.
Spider-Man in that intro. So it was
Right.
just odd. I'm sure you have some other thoughts too. It was really weird that Naughty Dog got 2 reps and some other foundational studios got 0, and you could show Ratchet and Clank, but not Jak and Daxter, even if the franchises are dormant.
Doesn't mean that they're not still part of the brand and like the backbone of these 20-25 years of studio buildup, right? Like,
Yeah.
it feels like if this was a copy of the, Marvel intro, which it was, right? One of the cool things about that Marvel intro is that it shows like these clips from the movies all across, from Iron Man 1 all the way up to the newest Avengers, right? Like, you get these mini flashbacks every time you watch the beginning of a Marvel movie with all these characters floating in, right? And so, yes, this is a blatant copy, but it's like a very poorly done one. Sony was like, hey, Marvel, can I copy your homework? And then Marvel's like, yeah, just don't make it obvious, right? And so they did it really poorly and like very rushed. And it just feels like there was so much more opportunity for them to have these characters from the past, from all these other generations of PlayStation, right? This is effectively 5 years worth of PlayStation Studios that's built up to this now with PS5, right?
All that matters is their 2 main studios.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're like, here's Kratos and like, here's Nathan Drake, like, leave us alone, right? And it's
I can't imagine that Killzone's not there, Resistance is not there. That was mind-blowing to me.
No.
How is like Ape Escape, or like, it's just some of the old, like, I'm not expecting to see Siphon Filter, but like SOCOM should be there.
What about Knack?
God damn it.
I'm just saying, it felt really half-baked. All jokes aside, even though Knack should be there as the backbone from PlayStation 4's epic launch and domination of that cycle, it was propped up by Knack. All jokes aside, it just feels like there was a lot of history that was left on the table, and it feels like it was really poorly thought out.
Yeah, it's cool, but it's a miss to me. I think it's a miss. Like, it only made me angry, and like, it was one of those things where I was just like, man, even Microsoft Studios intro is way cooler than just that one, even though they have the cooler characters. So you mentioned Knack. He's got that spiky hair.
Oh, yeah.
You know who else got some spiky hair? My main man, Sora. And there are rumors that there is a live action Kingdom Hearts show coming to Disney Plus. And JD.
Yeah, I know. You are so excited for this. I texted you this story as, hey, you want to talk about this? And then you raged at me for roughly, gosh, I don't know. It was probably like a good 30 minutes of just rage text that came my way. I know you love the idea about this. I know that you're really worried that they're going to rip off the Kingdom Hearts 4 storyline that we talked about on the pod last week. I don't think they will. I don't think you have to worry about that.
So I'm worried in a lot of ways, my friend. And I know that you... It's going to happen. I get it.
It will happen.
I want to start in one place first. Live action's the wrong choice. If you would have said animated series, I would say, if you give me Avatar The Last Airbender, but Kingdom Hearts,
you'd scream.
I'm all the way in. Yeah. So live action's the first thing that like hits me in the heart and like unlocks my rage, much like a Keyblade would. The next part of this that's concerning is like, no anime, and Kingdom Hearts isn't an anime, but it essentially is an anime.
I mean, it kind of is.
Yeah. No anime has ever like transitioned from the animated style or the cartoon to live action. I've watched the Full Metal Alchemist in like Attack on Titan and like live action movies, or the Death Note one on Netflix. It's always ridiculous and not what you want. So I'm hoping Cowboy Bebop is cool, but I personally have not seen the live action adaptation that has worked for me. And I do like anime. So I wish them the best. I hope it's cool. My suggestion would be to go back to the beginning before Sora and do Birth by Sleep and do Terra, Aqua, and Ventus. That would be my suggestion to them, to start all the way before and then build to Sora. To not have to do flashback sequences and jump all over the place like the Witcher series did.
You don't like that?
I like Witcher, but I wish it was more linear, because I was like,
really?
Wait, what time is it? Yeah, because I had to like look at all these charts to figure out when Yennefer met him and how long they were like pseudo sleeping together. Was it like 2 years? Was it 2 weeks? I had to like look at all the charts because I care about that stuff. So I don't see them having a CG budget enough to like make it look right.
Yeah, that's my biggest fear. So live action, I think, could be done. If there was a company with tons of money to pour into that kind of a budget, it's Disney, right? They more than have the funds, and with their acquisition of all their studios they have, particularly I look at Marvel and the amazing animation they do in those movies, they have the resources. What I don't think, and I think you're spot on, is they will not pour the money into a series like this. Now, counterpoint to quickly contradict myself, they did pour a ton of money into Mandalorian. And to see that success pay off the way it has does give me some hope that they would greenlight a very big budget for Kingdom Hearts series as well, right? Because they've taken the risk on Mandalorian,
Yeah.
seen how it's paid off, and so now they'll be like, okay, maybe this is going to be worth the risk, and it might attract an entirely new audience of people that they really haven't gotten yet.
Oh, JD, you just made me realize something.
Oh no.
It's bad. So
Oh no.
let's say they make this show just like Doctor Who, and it's Sora and the freaking gummy ship just traveling to places, and it's like more of a case of the week one. So like maybe
Okay.
each season is like 6 episodes, so they can make them a little longer and throw a little more money at it. But what if they bring in the live action actors? What if they bring in Emma Watson to be Belle? They're just like, hey, we'll pay you $1 million to come be in one episode and come be Belle for a day.
You like this or you don't?
No, I hate it so much. But like, they have all these live action movies now. This is the MCUification of their Disney library now. They can go back and get the actress who played Cinderella in that remake, or get Mulan from the new Mulan movie coming out, and be like, hey, come be in this Kingdom Hearts thing for a day.
Interesting. Why don't you like that?
Oh, because I think it'll work and it makes me angry. is why I don't like it.
Okay.
But because they already have because Josh Gad wants to freaking jump and be LeFou anytime anyone just like, hey man, like they're making an Aladdin sequel because everyone wants to see Will Smith again. But could you imagine if they just got the people from the Aladdin cast to come hang out in a Disney Plus show for a day and help Sora fight some Heartless?
That sounds great.
I'm so mad that
I like that. That sounds so nice to have that level of continuity at play. Like if they could pull something like that off, that would be awesome. And from a Disney point of view, it would just fuel people to want to go back and stream and rewatch those other movies, right? It locks them in. That is super smart.
The sing-along thing has made me think that this is exactly what's going to happen. There might even be like a tie-in Kingdom Hearts episode comes out after the new live-action Little Mermaid, and then it's just like, oh, and then now she's hanging out with Sora. Come watch it on Disney Plus. I'm so mad. I'm so mad,
dude. You just wrote their marketing strategy. I love it.
That's my pitch for the next 3 weeks. It's on you now, dude.
All right, let's move on from this. Let's talk about our next story. So, officially announced, we've been talking about rumors on the show for a couple of weeks. Now it's official. Tony Hawk Pro Skater is getting a comeback. So, announced at Summer Game Fest, Activision talked about that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 is going to get remastered, coming to PS4, Xbox One, and they're coming on PC. Going to be out at the end of the summer. I think it's September 4th they're going to be out. They're including all the original levels, skaters, tricks, modes, and best part is it's the original soundtrack too, which rules. It's going to be so good. They're also going to have some new modes, and they're going to include some online multiplayer. So this all so far sounds awesome, right? It's the original game plus some more. It's the exact way to do it, right? The stuff that they've shown off with the remastered graphics looks beautiful, and I'm just so excited for these fresh new graphics with the original Tony Hawk soundtrack. That is quite honestly music to my ears. I am stoked. How do you feel about this remaster? I think it's great. I don't want to influence you, but if you don't think it's great also, then this will probably be the last episode of the pod we record.
JD, I echo everything you said. You're right, my friend. You're correct. It's only $40.
That's the best part.
Yeah, there's only like four of the songs that couldn't make it on because licensing stuff. So like, yeah, man,
Sure.
You're right. 2 games, $40. This is perfect. I mean, there's not much more to say other than we want to play this. It's going to bring us back to our childhood, make us feel good. I started the episode with my crazy surfer voice because I'm hyped.
I'm stoked, dude. I cannot wait to buy this and play it. And yeah, it's going to be such a nostalgic journey. All the original skaters. Oh, yeah, it's going to be good. I could talk about this for a while, but
yeah, one more thing I just wanted to say about it. It's like, it's always cool when a new generation ends up getting the music of their forefathers. So like Rock Band brought a lot of music to me, and Guitar Hero brought a lot of music to me that I wasn't familiar with because I wasn't raised in a house of rock and roll. I had a little bit more horns and accordions being Mexican, but I really relished learning all that rock and roll music in my teen years from Guitar Hero and all of that. So it's going to be really cool to see some Gen Z people getting to know a lot of the stuff that just made us kick our heads up and rebel and be like,
this classic punk rock. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, dude, I am so excited. I love that there's going to be this new multiplayer too, because I know we are going to be playing that. Oh, this is everything about this so far sounds amazing.
JD, bust out the Blink-182 cutoff shirt with the sleeves out, sun's out, guns out. Let's go, buddy.
I have it. It's tucked in the back of my drawer. It was waiting for a moment to make a comeback, and Activision and Vicarious Vision, you guys have given that to me. Thank you so much for validating that I should have kept that ripped up Blink-182 shirt, because it is going to pay off at the end of this summer.
The manager of the Samurai Showdown Twitter account, he's been waiting as well to show his real him. And this has been an interesting story. So essentially what happened is there were some tweets that came from the official Samurai Showdown Twitter account, and the internet got upset about them and then not upset about them. And then there was a statement. So I kind of want to walk you through all of it. The person from the account first tweeted when this game came out. And if you haven't seen Samurai Showdown, it has your overly busty ladies in skimpy outfits fighting in your SNK style. It's just one of those booby fighters. It is. There's no way to, you got to call a spade a spade. So the Twitter account for it, they essentially said everybody horny on main right now, or like everyone's horny on main because of this. And it makes sense. Like that's just a joke that's been happening during quarantine, people being horny on main. So it made sense for that to come up. And then the next one is they just retweeted someone thanking SNK for including the character with the character from behind with some butt shots. Then there was a lengthy statement about them taking down a number, and I'll read this verbatim. A number of posts made by this account have been deemed inappropriate and offensive by members of our community. So first off, a number of posts. It was 2. Calm down. The admin in charge has been given a strict warning to be more considerate. The offending posts have now been deleted. Please accept our sincerest apology. Look, guys, this is the game you made. You got to lay in the bed that you've made. Do you have a different opinion on this, JD, or do you feel the same?
No, I mean, so there's a couple layers to this, right? Like, it is the game that has been created, and I can appreciate, I guess, that the social media person was trying to do that. On the other hand, I also don't always like when brands try to interact with people as people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like it's different for a player to tweet out everybody horny on main, and then for an official brand to take that stance and it feels like a little bit of those like, how do you do, fellow kids? Like one of those moments, right? At the same time, right? And I think you're about to break down the next part of this for us. It's interesting for them to walk it back the way they did after trying to embrace it, because it caused the next half of the story. So go on, I'll let you kind of outline it.
I don't know the next half of the story. I didn't know there was more.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will outline it, right? So they walked it back and they said, hey, we're sorry about this. And we deleted these tweets, which then triggered a different part of the internet to then react to say, oh man, everything is so socially just now, and everything has to be so in a box, and there's no expression, and everyone has to walk this fine line to not offend anyone, right? So you have this brand that put itself in a very precarious position by tweeting these things out and taking this stance, because then it offended one group of the internet. Okay, I get it. Something's going to offend someone. That's just the way it works, right? They walked it back, which maybe appeased that first group, and maybe it didn't, right? They may have just been like, thanks for doing the bare minimum. But what it did do is trigger a different part of the internet to be extremely upset and say, oh, this is just SJW culture, and this is all terrible, and this brand is spineless, and blah, 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 right? So Samurai Showdown sort of shot themselves in the foot twice.
Oh, 100%. And I think the thing that makes me not the maddest, but I'm just like, I can't believe that. It's like a lot of social media managers, you're looking in your community to find things to retweet that highlight cool stuff about your game. And then like, I get it. It was like the butt of this DLC character that was retweeted.
Right.
But that's in the game. And when someone's saying thank you, like they're thanking the company for making the character, and then this person gets in trouble for it. That's what I don't like. And I get it that you have to be not politically correct, but you have to try to speak to an audience that you don't necessarily know the age of. But, Twitter has guidelines for how old you're supposed to be before you get that account. And Twitter is, I would say, a more mature place. Not to say that you should see more scandalous content there, but like, I felt like this was okay. Maybe not that I would have made the same call, but retweeting something like that, they're just like, thanks guys. It's just like, everybody horny on main is the response you should have to that.
I don't know. I think it's this classic example of a brand being out of touch with the social media trends and with the audience. And I think the last story in our fastballs is also a perfect example of this. If you haven't seen it, right? So in Fortnite, Travis Scott had this crazy concert event where we talked about it a couple weeks ago. It was just this entire overhaul of Fortnite's mechanics and systems. It was this digital concert with shows with new songs being debuted in this show. It was really cool, right? And so one of Joe Biden's campaign political advisors has started to think about, like, how in the world do I now take this popular Fortnite event and how do we get Joe Biden to have a similar sort of event to like make him appeal to this extremely young section of the internet that's extremely engaged, right? Like Fortnite does something and it hits a new record in terms of concurrent players. And so now they're like, oh man, like we need to ride this hype train, right? And so there's just the internet, I guess, latching onto this story and coming up with creative things has just been absolutely my favorite thing, right? So just to read a couple of my favorite tweet replies, some people have gone on to. So at Austin_Walker put Pokemon Joe to the polls. At Viperware tweeted, bass boosted Joe Biden speaking through your Connect as an idea for how we can engage with us in our living room. At Ricky FTW for the win. Didn't tweet, text. I highly recommend you look this tweet up and we'll retweet it on the show on our podcast. It's just a photo of Joe Biden screaming superimposed on top of the Grand Canyon. It is truly incredible. It is absolutely one of the best images I think that hit. Yeah, and just to round it out, to really sum up our current political situation, at Ken Kleppenstein had my favorite tweet, which was, sorry you don't have a job anymore. Anyway, here's a video of Joe Biden dabbing on Fortnite.
And that brings me a lot of joy, JD. And that brings us to another source of joy for both of us. This Week in Animal Crossing is a new segment we have where you get to talk about some of the great things that have been happening this week in Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I will lead us in. First thing first, there's a crossover event happening with Tetris 99 and Animal Crossing, which seems like an extremely weird pairing. I don't know exactly how this came to be, but basically, there's the Animal Crossing Cup in Tetris 99 that kicks off yesterday as we record this pod right now. And in it, if you participate, you get some event things in the game. I'm not even 100% sure where this came to be, how this partnership was evolved. I don't know. Go ahead. I'll let you talk about the next one because I know you're extremely excited.
Oh, my girl, AOC. She was in Animal Crossing, and it was really interesting because I guess when you're a political figure and you open your DMs, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she opened them DMs and asked people if she could come visit their islands because she's new to Animal Crossing, was jumping on the fad. And I don't think this was a pandering to the people type move. I just feel like she was like in quarantine bored or, wanted to just play some Animal Crossing. And she's had some interesting meetings with people.
I've really enjoyed seeing her. So one, she has a little custom shirt that just says AOC on it, right?
Yeah.
And real quick, this is to kind of not talk about her in Animal Crossing specifically, but what I really, really love is her being in Animal Crossing has triggered the official CNN politics blog to have to talk about Animal Crossing, which is amazing. Seeing their captions in like the very matter of fact CNN reporting way, like there's a photo of her on someone's island standing next to Leaf, who was introduced with the Earth Day update.
Yes.
The caption just says, Alexandra AOC tweeted this photo showing her Animal Crossing game. The figure in the center, AOC, is her avatar sporting a custom AOC t-shirt, while the figure on the right is a sloth who sells plants.
She did, I think she did a graduation. She showed up at one of those. She did a commencement thing. But yeah, she's just been popping around to people's islands. She'll open the DMs and ask people what's going on. So it's exciting.
Yeah. It's a cool way for someone to just participate, for a politician to participate in popular culture. And I'll say the way that she does it with a lot of stuff on Twitter and other games, and especially Animal Crossing now, she just seems to get it and connect in a smart way. And I really like it.
Yeah,
So,
well,
and I know you
I
do
love
too.
her. She's great. Like politics stuff aside, I just think that she does cool things.
I agree. So moving on to our next story, SB Nation used Animal Crossing to recreate their favorite memes, their favorite sports memes. And they had the best subline on this article that I've ever seen, which was, "Is it too late to submit this for a Pulitzer Prize?" And it is truly fantastic. They've done all sorts, like the confused Nick Young meme where it's him looking at the camera
Yeah,
with the
I
little,
like that one a lot.
that's one of my favorite memes ever. So to see a sports version of it is so good. They redid the Eli Manning shocked face with a caption of, "Every time I try to catch a tarantula, but miss." This is just a fun story, and I really love the way it looks. And then to round it out on a more sales point of view, Animal Crossing New Horizons now is the best-selling Switch game ever in Japan. And that doesn't shock me one bit.
It's so beautiful, dude. It's such a good, it's such a good game, man. I'm glad that everyone's embracing it the way they have. Obviously, they're embracing it way more than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, we've talked about this over and over and over and over. It's just like this, I don't know, like it's this quarantine with social media, just this echo chamber where everyone is just all together. I don't know. It's really awesome to see. I'm part of that problem of being super on board with it and constantly advocating it. I don't know if that's a problem. Maybe it's a problem for me, but it's good for Nintendo.
Yeah, you have yeah, you're hooked. You're hooked on the AC.
Yep, I am. I really am. And that brings us to the end of our This Week in Animal Crossing. It brings us to the end of our fastballs. And I think with that, now we are going to move into our scouting report.
Yeah, man. The scouting report this week has 3 juicy pieces of
They're big.
goodness. Yeah. I think we got to start with the biggest thing, though, right?
Undoubtedly the biggest story of the week.
Yeah, it's an epic reveal, if you will.
Everything about it is so epic.
I'm mad at us now.
Right.
Okay, well, Unreal Engine 5 was revealed, and I know at the top of the show you kind of talked a little bit about how you've been dabbling in game dev yourself, looking into Unity and things like that. But Unreal Engine 5 has a lot of exciting new features and all the triangles. You want to walk us through some of the things that excited you most, Jay?
Well, besides the triangles, so first things first, it was really neat because they did this as a live stream reveal with Jeff Keighley and Tim Sweeney, and a couple of the other Epic developers were on there. So it was really cool that they still kind of hyped it as this big event and reveal. I really liked the format that they used. I really liked Jeff Keighley's interview pacing and questions. It just reminded me why I like Jeff Keighley so much. But they revealed this tech demo of Unreal 5 running on a PS5 tech kit, which is pretty awesome that they are using this unannounced pricing piece of hardware to show off this new tech. That in itself is really cool. Mm-hmm. In this demo, they showed off some brand new technology that's going to be at the core of UE5. So one of them is called Nanite, and it's kind of where this whole triangle joke is coming from. But basically, it's, as Epic puts it, virtualized micro polygon geometry. And so all that effectively means is that artists, when they're building models and worlds, can use as much geometric detail as they want. It lets them do millions and billions of different little polygons and different scales that they can build around. And the engine itself is going to scale it in real time, so they don't have to have these different budgets of different memories that are being managed anymore. So that is amazingly impressive. The other piece of tech that they showed off is something called Lumen. Lumen is a new lighting system. It's dynamic illumination, and it's also a real-time lighting system. So as light comes in, it reflects and bounces in all sorts of new ways, right? It's like we've seen these ray tracing changes with graphics cards, and this is like amping it up a whole bunch. It's insane. The other cool thing is that editors and artists will be able to move light sources in the Unreal Editor, and the lighting will automatically on the fly change in the editor, and it will mirror exactly what the run build would look like on console. So it's going to just make it so much easier from a development point of view.
I think a lot of the things that you're saying are things that maybe most of the public will never fully, truly appreciate. Your person that's just picking up a Ghost of Tsushima or a Last of Us Part 2 off the store shelves in a Walmart. Like they might not realize how revolutionary this is, how much of a jump this is. But I just wanted to focus real quickly on the first thing that you brought up, that this demo was running on PS5. So this is interesting in the behind the scenes war between different companies, with Epic and with Ubisoft, because of course Unreal and Unity are our primary competitors, but you're seeing Ubisoft pairing with Microsoft for this unveiling of the Valhalla, not gameplay, and you're seeing them leading this PlayStation forward with Epic. So I just wonder if they're taking sides, but it is something where it's been weird that they haven't been saying hey, would this run on Xbox Series X, or could it, there hasn't been a lot of messaging there. And I don't know if it's something where they can maybe legally they can't say, oh yeah, Unreal 5 will run better on Xbox Series X. I don't know what it is, but I did want to highlight that real quick. The PS5 focus was strange to me.
Yeah, and one thing I will say is Tim Sweeney did tweet, I think, the next day about how this engine is going to look beautiful. He said it's going to look great on PS5 and it's going to look great on Xbox Series X, right? So he did throw this really small bone over to Microsoft's camp, probably in part to make sure fans aren't raging hard that they're gonna tie up with PlayStation and Sony for the next gen, right? I think he certainly is hey, look, it's gonna be good on both. It is interesting, like you're saying though, that they would choose to reveal tech like this on a console that we know very little about in terms of pricing and in terms of availability. It's weird that they wouldn't use a nice high-end PC. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the appeal is hey, this is going to be available on a box you can go buy off the shelf at Best Buy later this year, right?
Yeah, and they did mention that it would have been playable at E3. If everything was normal, that you just could have played this. And there's a whole rabbit hole we can jump down of the tech demos that we never got to play that should have been games, because this game looked great, should be a real game. It's not, but it should. But
it's beautiful.
Please continue.
Let's talk a little bit more in terms of, and I think this whole segment is going to be very developer focused, which I think is good. I think we need to talk more about that when we can. So the other huge change, right? So that's the tech change so far that we've seen, the two big core technologies that they're going to be integrating into UE5. From a monetary point of view, and I think this will have a massive ripple effect on the industry and how games are made, particularly with indies, is that Epic is changing the royalty structure for UE5. So the engine's free to download, it's free to use, and now any royalties up to the first $1 million in game rev are royalty free. So you don't pay Epic anything up to $1 million, which is massive. It used to be after $3,000 in sales, you'd pay a 5% royalty. And to even further illustrate how big of a change this is, after that million, in any given month after you hit that cap, if the revenue is under $10,000 for that particular month, the royalty's waived again, right? So let's say over the course of a year, you hit that million cap, right? And maybe your game then starts to dip down in terms of its downloads and sales. So let's say in month 13, after you've already hit that $1 million cap, you only sell $5,000 worth. Well, that 5,000 is royalty free, right? And if that trend continues forever, well, it's all royalty free from there on out. That's huge. That is so revolutionary in terms of how the industry approaches this financial piece of paying developers. I can't, it's hard to even wrap my head around what this is going to do for indie developers.
Yeah, it's going to be a boon. It's going to be an explosion, and no better time than now, because there's so many tools out there that let you and help you learn how to game dev and how to do this. And Unity is very, user friendly, and I haven't played around in Unreal as much, but I know they're competitors, so they probably have a lot of similar suite functions. The thing that I think is crazy to me is that 5% could mean the difference in someone quitting their day job and having their game that they put out fund them to really go full-time game dev on their indie projects, or the difference between having to still work as an Uber driver. And it's crazy that, of course, I think that me and you recently so funnily made the choice to go Unity, because I just spent a bunch of money on Unity courses, and then now I'm like, well, crap, anyone who chose Unreal Engine to start, they seem like they just got a win today.
Yeah, it's crazy how So let me address that real quick. So like you said, we both have Unity downloaded, and Unity. I also bought the Unreal course because in the back of my head, I wondered if I would ever need that and want it. And now and also let me say this. I bought that Unreal course like 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like I've had it just on the back burner for a while, and now I'm looking like a real genius to have that in my Udemy library because I'm like, oh dang, like is it time to switch? I don't know. Because the other big thing that they announced, so technologies aside, right? Money aside, they're also paving the way for cross-platform play better than anyone has before, right? So they've announced Epic Online Services, which is going to be a SDK, so a software kit that you can integrate into your games that will allow for friends and matchmaking lobbies. It will have accounts built in. It will allow cross-platform play on all 7 major platforms. So PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, PC, Mac, iOS, and Android, right? And this SDK is free. So the engine's free. You don't have to pay Epic anything if you make under $1 million, which is probably like wildest dream status for most game devs. And they're giving you this framework so that you can distribute your game everywhere. It is mind-boggling what they're doing. And it raises the question that I want to ask you, to go back to what you just said. Can Unity compete? Like, will they change? And do you think they even can?
I think it all comes back to Epic itself. And they're, of course, the people behind Fortnite. And I don't know that if everyone would have connected the dots Unreal Engine to Epic Games, because that's not something, because Unreal Engine is well known. You know, your Valve times, your Unreal, or your Half-Life 2s.
Yeah.
It's just Unreal's been a thing in my life just always, but I never, associated or connected the dots back to Epic Games. And I guess I knew that somewhere in my head, but this is crazy to me that how much they're winning. And I guess because Fortnite is fueling them in the way that it is, they have this effort money. And we talked a few weeks back about them getting all these publishers on board and how they gave them these crazy deals where they're keeping their IP. And now they're doing this same kind of gesture, not to the AA and AAA developers, but they're doing it to the guy in his garage making a game. So this is a coup. I think Unity has to compete. I don't think
how can they?
They have to maybe match or go bigger on the royalty free thing, or maybe that's too big of a part of their bottom line for their stock and shareholders. So they have to find another way to benefit, or maybe a pension thing for the indie devs, or like a match, like we'll match the sales of something up to X. So maybe it's something on the front end where like, hey, we'll match your sales and put it into a game dev bank that is like minus from what you would have owed us in royalties. Something, sure. I don't know, something in that vein. I can't really think of it off the top of my head, but everything you just told me, that is Unreal basically saying you're an idiot if you're not over here.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, right? Like, you put yourself in our shoes, quite literally, right? Like, we, listeners, we pod for you guys. We love playing games, but also we're both very, very interested in getting into the industry, making games. And so we've been, doing a little bit of learning, doing a little bit of teaching ourselves. And now you kind of think about it like, dude, if you and I are making some of the games that we've talked about making, how could we not make them on the platform that is literally going to let us keep all of our money for, I mean, unless we have some wild hit on our hands, which we do, but but like after we, $1 million after that, like the royalty percentage is still in our favor, right? We could build these multiplayer games we've talked about with this framework that they're giving us for free, right? Like, how do you not want to use Epic's software right now? I don't know.
I don't see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This will I think will be a deep topic going forward in the podcast here. So I know we're passionate about it. We'll be back to it a lot of times throughout the history of this show, because we're right. Like I forgot to say at the top, congratulations, week 14, we did it, baby, we're here,
man, we made it.
Yeah. Let's move on to our next story. And I guess Sucker Punch, they finally made it too, man. Well, they didn't make it into that PlayStation Studios graphic. How dare Sony? But they did finally show off a little bit more of their game. there was a stream that came out. It was one of those, it's not Inside Xbox. What is
State
it?
of Play.
State of Play, yes. What a dumb name.
It's so bad.
Dumb. It's really dumb. I dislike it. But regardless, I like the content that they showed us. And they said this is just the tip of the iceberg. So I think that we'll probably have another micro-focused development video like this again that highlights some other features, maybe some of the story, some of the side characters, some of the quests, things like that. But this one showed off traversal. It showed off the world and some of the customization. So, JD, if you had to pick one thing, what was the thing that most excited you about the Ghost reveal?
The fox petting.
Well, clearly.
No, the combat looks beautiful. The combat looks so good. I also like how minimal the user interface looks. It isn't in the way. It isn't getting in your face and kind of showing you too much. And we talked about that before, right? Where they really don't want this like, go here next, go here next, go here next, right? And I think that they've said that, and then this reveal really showed it in the way that the design of the user interface is on screen. I thought that looked absolutely beautiful, along with the entire game. The game looks gorgeous.
Definitely.
What about you? What excited you?
It was one sentence, and I don't know how much of the development or how much of the game is actually devoted to this sentence, but they said that the enemies will learn to fear you. So just to set this up, there are two types of combat that you can do within Ghost of Tsushima. You can be the samurai or you can be the ghost. So the ghost sneaks around, kills people in silence, uses things like smoke grenades and firecrackers to basically distract, and it's like the magician, the assassin magician. You're trying to use some over there magic, and then also finding ways to murder them and get them to fall into your traps. The samurai, he just walks up, and there's this cool system where like it just like it filled up and it would show the direction of the person. It's like, oh, we locked eyes, baby, it's on. And this is like
you're gonna die.
Yeah, it's cool because like he's just like killing everyone, and I like the slow pace of it, yet the speed, the way that you flick the blood off after killing people, or just the precise decisions with the blade cuts are so cool. So I hope that I am smart enough to figure out how to make it look that cool, because obviously they're showing off the game, so they want to make it look great. But I really was, I think, and going back to that sentence that I mentioned, that the enemies learn to fear you. So as the ghost or as the samurai, if you're just wrecking shop and some of these people are just like, bye, I'm out, because I know I'm a D- swordsman, and that dude over there is an A+, like I'm into that. That's very exciting to me, just that thought that the enemies learn to fear you through your tactics and what you do at that base in that moment.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's a lot of really cool little thoughtful things that they talked about, right? The customization's cool. You collect flowers, to different colored flowers, let you dye your clothing different ways. And then to go back to that sort of minimal input, right, from the game. So one way they showed is that the wind and the fox that I mentioned at the top, they can guide you in your path. So you might see the wind is blowing a certain way, and it's almost like this very silent, non-verbal, non-showy way of saying like, this is the way you should go, right? Or a fox is going to show up and it's like, oh, I guess I should follow this fox around and it's going to lead me to this next area. Dude, that's cool. Like,
and that's why I put in the show notes, just to give people a peek behind the curtain here, that Jin, your character you play as, is a Disney princess, because he's like riding his horse and this like yellow like bird came along, and then he was just like flying by him, and then he just kind of followed it, and I was like, oh cool, is Jin gonna sing a song and he's gonna dress him up and put his kimono on, like tie the ribbons like he's freaking Cinderella?
Exactly. The birds are flying around dressing him, like a new cloak comes overhead.
Oh my gosh, I've got it, dude. It's Ginderelli instead of Cinderella. It's Ginderelli, and it's the birds. I gotta find an artist to like get the birds in the position of Gus and like all the mice, and just and he's like putting on a kimono, looking beautiful.
I love it. While I agree that State of Play is the stupidest name ever, I really did, and I like these looks at the game with this level of depth and care in what they showed. I think it was really, this video was about 20 minutes and it was really thoughtfully done. And it really does get me excited for this game. It looks unbelievably good.
Oh no, it got me excited about it too. And we've talked about Microsoft doing such a good job speaking to the gamers. This video was for the gamers. They used all kinds of gaming terms. This was not a commercial for marketing for everyone else. This was deep, like, hey guys, here's gameplay systems. We know this is what you want to know. And I think this is the tool that they're using to get gamers to want to buy this game. Because before I was like, Ghost looks cool. Now I'm like, man, I really need to play that, especially because the last thing I just want to bring up, that Kurosawa film grain filter.
I know.
I just saw all kinds of explosion on Twitter about that, and everyone was all hype. I also saw some film majors being like, they just threw it in black and white. That's not Kurosawa. And then and then I saw like just all these arguments about like what the Kurosawa film, like, and it's just like it's like film student comes up, that white balance is off, this isn't Kurosawa, spits on game, walks away, like just like stuff like that.
Of all things to fight about in a video game too, like it just makes you kind of happy to see like this wide variety of people engaging with this game. To be like, no, this is what the film filter is, not people that are like the usual argument with games where it's like, make sure you don't pre-order a video game, right? Like that's normally the most negative thing you'll hear up to the launch. And then now it's like, no, you're wrong about film filters. No, you're wrong. Like,
yeah,
perfect.
Well, we're both excited about the game. I'm sure we'll cover it more on the show. Let's move on to our last scouting report item. And really, we have a lot to talk about with Ubisoft. And I know we've been a little bit crapping on them with the Unreal stuff, but let's get into what they've been doing.
Yeah. So first things first, they have announced an event called Ubisoft for Digital. It is coming out in July, so July 12th. It is, in their words, a fully digital showcase with exclusive game news, reveals, and more. They didn't talk about any specifics yet. We can assume that we're going to see Assassin's Creed Valhalla for sure in depth. And then there's probably other things that we'll see, like Gods and Monsters, Rainbow Six, and Watch Dogs. All of those, I think, we'll kind of get some stuff on.
Just Dance.
Yeah,
Just Dance 2021, baby.
We'll get a Just Dance. I know. This is their E3 event, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. And I'm crossing my fingers for Mario Rabbids Kingdom 2.
Stop it.
That game's actually good.
Okay, fine. But like, there's so many other things Ubisoft is making that I would much rather see
than the Rabbids again.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that at the end of this segment, because we're going to talk a little bit more about a different story that Ubisoft put out. But I think this will be cool. I think about Ubisoft's E3 conferences of years past, where it's like they do a Just Dance thing as the intro, right? And they dance for like 5 minutes, and then they're like, all right, that's the game. And it's like, cool. Like, can we see something else, right? And like, it's really, the last couple have been really cheesy and just like, right? I hope now that this is a video, like they cut a lot of that crap out and
hopefully
it's really game focused. And then the other part of me is like, man, now that it's not live, they really could do a lot more to produce these little crappy bits, because they'll have a lot more time to like do multiple takes on them. And it really terrifies me.
Okay. So over under 4 Rabbids in this July event.
It's going to get shown. You're 100% right.
I'm saying 4 total Rabbids. Like, when we see more than less than, so you're going to take the 3.5, or you're going to go over?
Over all day. Okay. What we probably won't see is Beyond Good and Evil 2, because you have cursed that game for me. But
I know. Sorry,
we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's talk about Ubisoft. They're talking about what we're going to see soon. They also talked a little bit about games performing over the past of the console generation series. So 10 of their titles have sold over 10 million units this console generation. That includes Assassin's Creed Unity, Origins and Odyssey, Division 1 and 2, Far Cry 4 and 5, Ghost Recon Wildlands, that one shocked me, Rainbow Six Siege, and Watch Dogs 1 and 2. So that's really impressive, actually. Like, if you think about it, sometimes I forget too that these are Ubisoft titles. Like Far Cry, I always forget that that's a brand that Ubisoft has, and that's a fan favorite too. And not shocking that those sold over 10 million for both of those.
It's weird and I agree with you, like, because I never think that Ghost Recon, I do think Ubisoft, but Rainbow Six, I do not. And it's weird that they have both of those franchises going at the same time, because they're not the same thing, but they are the same thing.
But they are.
Yeah. So it's just like, oh man, they make Rainbow Six. That's totally right. And they make Ghost Recon. And maybe that should be their Call of Duty, where like they don't release a Call of Duty every year. They just do Ghost Recon 1 year, then Rainbow Six the next, then Ghost, then Rainbow.
Right.
And just keep it going, trickling out like that. Yeah.
I mean, so that's a lot of games that, it's easy to forget that those are all under Ubisoft's umbrella. And during the earnings call where they talked about these games, they also talked about how they have a pretty massive library of titles that they don't even have to mention that fans would instantly call back to. And that includes things like Prince of Persia, the before mentioned Beyond Good and Evil 2. They've showed off Skull and Bones, which I am beyond hyped for. Like, I am so excited for whenever that game will eventually get canceled, and then one day it'll get brought back, because that's what happens to me. I want it so bad, which means it will never come to fruition. And so it's crazy. They have these 10 that perform extremely well. And it's like, okay, like, is that all they've got? And then it's like, actually, no, they have a lot more.
They're impressive, man. They keep, man, this is why I like Unity. And it's so weird. Like, we're going to be in this unending fight between, should we use Unreal? Should we use Unity? Because, like, I feel like if I'm developing on Unity and like Ubisoft's like, hey, you used our platform, we like you. Let's elevate your game. I'm just like, thanks, guys. I'm Child of Light. Yay. It's amazing.
Yeah, I did it.
Yay.
All right, so to round out this Ubisoft section, they did tease that they have one more AAA game that they are going to release in the 2020-2021 fiscal year, which would go out to about March of 2021. So it could be something that they just talk about soon, and we see it in the holiday. It might be really early next year in 2021. They didn't say what it is, but it is a AAA game. And so what I want to do is, what do you think it is? If you had to take a guess, what do you think it is?
My joke answer is Rayman Royale, which is a battle royale. But my real answer is it's probably a Far Cry game. I would say something more multiplayer-ish, kind of like a battle royale, maybe not necessarily more like Apex than your Fortnites, but I could see a Far Cry battle royale, or just a straight up another Far Cry game.
My guess, obviously, what I would love, because it won't be Beyond Good and Evil 2, so I'm not even going to say that. What I want is Skull and Bones. But what I'm curious is, now that we have kind of our answers locked in, what about Splinter Cell? Because I always forget that is under Ubisoft's umbrella as well. What about a Splinter Cell game?
That would make me hot and bothered.
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
Both. I would be hot and also bothered if they were able to bring that back in some meaningful way, because man, is Splinter Cell cool.
It is so good. It really is.
I can't think of a stealth game that's been, I mean, a lot of games have stealth elements now because like Ghost is going to have it.
But they're not stealth, right? Like,
yeah,
through and through. The core mechanic of Splinter Cell is stealth, not like, you're right, Ghost has some stealth, but like, it's not all the way, right? And it's like,
actually, I would prefer if it did not go stealth, because there's, like stealth in Last of Us Part 2, and then also in, like I said, Ghost. I would actually be more excited if they decided that they were Fast and the Furious or like Mission Impossible, and they went like balls to the wall with a Splinter Cell, and they just decided to sell out full action and like spy gadgets and like go like wacky, spawn like wristwatch flamethrowers. Like that would make me happy.
That would be insanity to me.
That would.
Really, I actually love that, probably. That would be wild. Like, to completely flip the whole franchise on its head.
Yeah, I mean, God of War did it. It was like, random threesome mini games and like ripping people's heads off. And then it was like about a boy and a father. And, hey, you can always make that pivot. And it doesn't always have to be to more gritty and realistic. It can be like Saints Row and be a little more wacky too. You can make that change. So I don't see this happening. The other thing I don't see happening, but I could actually kind of see happening, is the entire Ubisoft Next thing, or the Ubisoft Forward event, hosted by a Rabid that's doing a Kevin Butler impersonation. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's the president of Ubisoft, but he's a Rabid, but he's Kevin Butler. But
he's Yves. He comes out with a Rabid like vocalization as Yves. That sounds, I don't even know. I don't like that. Okay. I do like a rogue Sam Fisher, where they're just like, this summer, Sam Fisher has gone rogue. And it's just like, everyone's like,
and Vin Diesel's in it for some reason.
He's Sam Fisher.
Yeah. God damn. Let's move on.
Oh. And if you like that, then moving on to our next segment, we're gonna pitch a game.
Are we gonna pitch a game, or is this your game, JD?
I think we came up with this together. I think this is a real 50-50 effort. And so let's paint the picture of a real idyllic park in Yorkshire. It's beautiful. It's a summer morning. The birds are chirping. The water is just flowing in this babbling brook. And then out of nowhere, Sora comes around the corner carrying just an absolute beautiful beautiful Frangipan. And of course, the game that I'm pitching with Eli in partnership with the BBC and Square Enix is Kingdom Tarts.
So, yes, the name sells it. It sells itself. Disney, where you at? You want to make that live action series? You got to make this. So here's a few things about this. One, this came about from just text conversations. Also, Cooking Mama drama has been missing from my life. So why not spice it up? I know yourself, you were having some baking issues this morning.
I did.
Unprovable cinnamon rolls just not rising, just dough balls of sadness. So both of us need an education in tarts and desserts. I mean, Kingdom Tarts : Dessert Kingdom is exactly what the people need right now. We could make castles of gingerbread that look like the Disney castle itself.
That would be that's the showstopper challenge.
Yeah.
You have to recreate the Disney castle using nothing but Frangipan. You have 4 hours.
And here's the nice thing, Goofy, he helps you out in the kitchen as well. He takes his shield off his back. He's not defending with it anymore. He puts it on the table and he's mixing up your ingredients inside that shield there.
God, what a guy. That's so useful. It's obviously a timed combat system, but it's not really combat, right? You just have to make sure that you're hitting the mark on the right cue, and it's a time management situation that we have going on here.
Definitely. And the other good news is Donald Duck has died, so you get to use his wand as a spatula inside any of the bowls. It's great.
Oh, I love it. And now it makes sense where the duck filling came from on the on the filled bread challenge that we had.
Yep, that's exactly where that duck filling came from.
Kingdom Tarts, sponsor the pod, BBC. We know you want to.
Shout out to Great British Baking Show. Watch that on Netflix. It's real good.
It's real good. And it is the core motivator of this terrible, terrible pitch.
I actually think that if you just copy pasted Cooking Mama and made it Kingdom Hearts characters and Disney stuff and you were making Disney pastries, I feel like it would actually make money.
It would. Sponsor the pod. Okay, let's move on. We have 2 red cards to give out this week. I'll talk about the first one, and then I'll let you talk about the next one a little bit. So the first one is on Ninja. No shock. He, this week, got killed by a hacker while playing Call of Duty Warzone. And, that's frustrating in and of itself. But then he went on an absolute tirade on stream, blaming bad parenting and suggesting that this wouldn't have happened if the hacker wasn't sent to a private school. So, quote, he said, "There could have been a moment in history with his mom and his dad that just made him become this effing loser where he just starts hacking and turning into this," lots of expletives, right? And then he continued on to say, "All of this stems from a decision that a parent, a mother and a father, made to raise a piece of," expletive, "hacking human being. Think about it. Maybe they shouldn't have sent him to private school. I don't know."
I love how we can cover the highbrow, get in depth on the technicality of the Unreal Engine 5, but then we will also bring you those tabloid worthy headlines of the
"We're not above it."
Yeah, just like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, they're breaking up because blah, and then we're just Ninja's losing it on stream because he is, and
it is the equivalent of when you're checking out at the grocery store and they have those really crappy tabloids right at the front, right? This would be the headline on the front where it's like, "Streamer Ninja loses it on private schools," and the little sub headline is "hates all parents," right? That is basically what this is, but also he is a public figure. They literally sell Ninja merchandise in Target. So you have to know who you are, and your audience is a bunch of 12-year-olds that are extremely impressionable. You can't say stuff like this. You can't do it.
And that's why I brought it up. Obviously, he's getting a red card right now, but it's just so sad that him and PewDiePie are kings. They represent us as a species, as gamers. It's real sad. And I know obviously there's other people that represent us as well, but it's mainly PewDiePie and fucking Ninja.
It's awful.
It's fine. Well,
what's also awful is our other red card.
Yeah, and I'm handing it out to Nexomon, which I just found out about this week, which apparently is a franchise that's been on mobile for a while, and it's coming to game systems like the Switch. But if you watch the trailer, it's just Pokemon, and it's crappy. It's crappy.
A rip-off of Pokemon. Even the music, when I turned up the volume on this video you sent me, I was like, "Oh, it's Pokemon." And I was like, "It's not Pokemon." I'm like, "What is this?"
It looks like bad. It's almost like one of Red's paintings. You know what I'm talking about? Like where it's just like so close but so off.
Let me investigate this closer, and then I bring it to Blathers, and he's like, "Ho ho! This is a fake."
It's exactly what it is. It's bad. They're bad. They get a red card. That's all I have to say about it. I'm really mad about it. Like some of the characters look like Pokemon so much that it's just like they took like the legs of Mightyena and like put it with like the head of like a ferret. Like it's some of them are real bad. The crocodile specifically. I can't even believe it.
If you're gonna rip it off, can you at least make that Whopper that we tweeted out a couple of days ago and put that in the game at the very least?
Oh incredible.
All right, you have a penalty, right?
Yeah, it's a self penalty because last week when we were talking about the Inside Xbox games, we didn't really get into too many of the titles because there was the internet outrage. There was, of course, the personal feelings about it as well. But there was a lot happening around that Inside Xbox and just everyone being let down. The one game that you specifically did roast was Bright Memory Infinite. And I am giving myself a penalty for not speaking up and saying, oh, that was the one game that I thought looked cool. Because it was developed by only one person, which is super impressive. And of all the games showcased, that was the only game that I could see myself buying. So I just want to kick myself for not standing up to the tyrant JD and saying, oh, it looked cool.
I'm sorry, everyone involved. I blew it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but I think Bright Infinite Memory God, I can't even say the name right.
Say it right. Another penalty.
Second penalty. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. JD, take us on out.
Everyone, thanks again for tuning in. There are a ton of ways that you can get in touch with us on Twitter and Instagram at GamePitchPod. I'm at J to the D, and Eli is at Mario RPGino. You can find us on YouTube by searching at GamePitch Podcast. You can email us your questions, your criticism, your thoughts, and your hate. We love it. Bring it on at GamePitchPodcast@gmail.com. And we're on all your favorite platforms. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on Google Play. You can find full episodes as well as our YouTube exclusive content on YouTube, of course. Eli, anything else?
Nah, man, I just really hope that Disney isn't listening and they don't take that Kingdom Hearts live action thing serious, because that's what they should do, and I'm sad about it.
But I do hope that the BBC is listening. Sponsor the pod. On your mark, get set,
bake!